I'm ready.
Wow, this is a big guy. He'll be up here someday. Thank you very much, Carson. Carson Carpenter, thank you.
We are the common cause, we are the common people, and we only put America first. Welcome back to the Common Cause, everybody. My name is Carson Carpenter. It is June 22nd, 2026. We have an amazing Monday show coming up for you. We have a special guest who is trailblazing the America First movement, and that person is Garrett Lawrence. We also have to talk about foreign policy issues that are shaking up the entire world as we speak. The United Kingdom is getting their 7th prime minister in the last 10 years because of Keir Starmer being essentially removed from his post in the United Kingdom. What that means for civil rights, among other issues in the United Kingdom. As we know, there have been many issues over there regarding that. But first, I would like to bring in our amazing guest, somebody who I admire and watch a lot of their content. Garrett Lawrence, how's it going?
It's going great. Thank you so much for having me on, Carson.
Thank you very much, brother. And look, the first thing I'd like to tell the audience that's listening today is this is somebody who was on the original case for the Epstein Fortnite connection. This is something that I never thought I would be saying in my adult life, that there was a connection between Jeffrey Epstein and Fortnite, but we all know about the clip. We all know about the news. And just tell us a little bit more about what went viral a couple months ago.
Yeah, so about at the end of January, beginning of February, just began to circulate a Fortnite account, basically called Little Saint Jeff, on Fortnite. Began to circulate that this might belong to Jeffrey Epstein because of several factors. Biggest one including during the big initial dump of Epstein files in the beginning of this year. Within those 3 million were receipts for purchases of V-Bucks, which led a lot of people to think, was he playing Fortnite? They were purchased fairly closely to his alleged suicide, and so an account was found that within the last, I think it was year or two, there are methods for seeing if the name had changed at all in the account, and it hadn't changed, and so meaning that somehow, one way or another, a Fortnite account with the gamer tag found in the receipts had been online recently, at least within the last year, and those details kind of spooked everybody a little bit. And there were some responses from even Fortnite that didn't even really hold up against the initial evidence and stuff. So it's kind of a crazy situation.
Now, I told some of my friends this morning that I was interviewing you, and I showed them your main video that we're about to show the audience. And it really just blew my mind because I remember this story like it was yesterday, and it was something that I just found like so odd to see in our news headlines. And let's play that clip of you.
Department of Justice files show that Epstein had the email littlestjeff@yahoo.com linked to his main email, jeevacation@gmail.com. In May 2019, there was a receipt in his email showing that he spent $25.95 on V-Bucks. V-Bucks as in, yes, the currency from Fortnite. Some really intelligent people on the internet were able to trace back the purchases to a username called littlestjeff1 with the Israeli flag in the bio. Stats on the account show activity from Chapter 1, Season 10, which ran from August to October 2019. And for more clarification, Epstein allegedly died in August 2019. The account has wins logged as recently as 2025. And the profile literally went private last night after people started discussing this online. So either someone was playing on Jeffrey Epstein's Fortnite account, or he's literally alive. There was also activity on Rocket League 3 days ago. Anyway, this is all super suspicious and kind of funny.
Wow, Garrett. So tell me more how you found out this information to break this story.
Yeah, I had posted. It was funny. It was just the end of the week for me. And at the time, Trump RX had launched the prescription website, and so I was kind of talking about that. I've had some pharmacy experience, and so something that interested me. But that Friday morning, I got a text from a friend saying, "Is this legit? What's going on with this?" And so I went to Twitter to see what's going on, as we all do, which at the time I didn't get the joke in the username. I was saying Littlest Jeff, but it was obviously Little Saint Jeff, as in the island Little Saint John. And even he used to refer to the island to other people as Little Saint Jeff as a joke. Um, but I kind of started on Twitter, and then I went to I'm forgetting I think it was Fortnite GG, which is a website where you can pull basically records. That sounds really professional, but it's really just a documentation of previous wins and stuff in the game. And it typically will tell you if there's a name change by basically inputting whatever the current name is. If you look up let's say if there was a name change within the last year, the game account would show up with that original gamer tag. So if I typed in Little Saint Jeff, the original gamer tag from a year ago would have shown up. So if I had done that and a different gamer tag came up, then it would have been obvious that somebody was just using the account, or somebody had changed their name as a joke. Which is, I mean, again, how would they have known the name? It's something that shows up in the receipts. Um, Now, the receipts is the biggest discrepancy for me. It kind of confuses me still. I mean, you could say that the email is there wasn't a way, they didn't have to verify the email in order to create the account. There is that as kind of a possibility that the account was being used by someone else as creating a fun little hoax. Um, but uh, but yeah, I mean, that's how I initially came across the information. The next kind of thing was there was pushback. The narrative was that the website doesn't show name changes, was the first allegation or first criticism of my coverage. And that's not true, because there were other people that were changing their names to Little Saint Jeff with like some other numbers at the end, where you could basically pull up their account and see they had changed the name within the last year. And so that kind of kept things together for me when it came to the narrative.
And was Jeffrey Epstein a good gamer?
I can't remember what the win-loss numbers were. It is entirely possible. We know he has probably a bunch of illegitimate children. It's probably true that he had a child that was using the account. Um, that's probably what this is it's somebody within his close network still using the account rather than him, but who knows?
Because in that video, it said he was getting wins into late 2025. So whoever was on his
Yeah,
account was racking them up, right?
I guess so. Yeah.
And so you got a lot of attention for exposing this, but also you talk a lot about the America First movement as a whole. What do you think it was the odds that somebody like yourself, who's in the America First arena, was the first person to find out that Jeffrey Epstein may have had a Fortnite account or may have had a gaming past? What do you think the impact of that is?
Uh, I mean, it's kind of funny. I talk about things that interest me. So sometimes there will be, big stories for maybe the America First tent, and I maybe won't talk about it. I maybe cover it on my story because I don't necessarily want to always just dump in my effort into something I don't really care about. I feel like a disservice to the people that do respect and listen to what I have to say. And so I grew up a gamer. I still to this day, occasionally find time to hop onto a game, but I grew up with Fortnite, and so I think my timeline and my friends were kind of in the know. And I have a friend I've gone to university with who just was like, "Now this is the content I'd like to see from you," and I couldn't believe the story, so I had to go and dive deeper into that. And I thought it was funny, especially at a time where the Epstein story has been downplayed a lot, which I think is what has given the America First movement kind of a lot of leverage, because a lot of people within that really care about it. I care about it. Um, And so I think that's kind of what led me to the story. It feels good to have, contributed that. And, it's kind of a funny story to contribute to, and, doesn't really, save lives or anything, but it's something interesting to keep people's eyes peeled for.
No, definitely. And you never know with these type of things. It could unearth new material, could unearth new coordinations. You never know how those people use those accounts on Xbox or PS or whatever. So he could have been operating some type of stuff through the gaming world as well. We know there's fraud, we know there's
Yeah.
corruption even in that area. So I think you did a good service there, I'd have to say. And plus, it made for a really funny story for a week or so, about 5 or 6 months ago, correct?
Yeah, yeah, about 5 or 6 months ago. Yeah, it was a fun, I tried to ride that out and, see who I could connect with through that. It's a good way to also just bring more attention to Epstein in general. And I'm really interested in doing things like that.
Yeah, and I've seen you compliment Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, among other of the outcasts from this administration. Do you believe that these outcasts that have been essentially expelled by this Trump administration have a pathway back into the political arena in the next 2 or 4 years?
I absolutely. Yeah, I think right now it, we're in an interesting period where it's an exciting time to be involved in politics. I've said this to a lot of people, a lot of my friends. We share this sentiment that it's a high volatility type of situation where right now Thomas Massey might be voted out or MGT might be, kicked off the boat, but right now, what I think people, even we see this in the last couple of weeks as sentiment towards our foreign policy has changed, we see that there is an awareness the administration has that it's a losing fight to target individuals like Massey, MJT, and so on, or MTJ, and so on. It's very, I think, uh, I think we can see them coming back in the next couple of years. I know Massey has already filed for a reelection, unless he runs for president. Who knows? But uh, I think even those people even understand that it's a losing fight to try to convince Americans that we're getting exactly what we want from our government. Because as time goes on, the administration, there's a lot of good. I believe that there's a lot of good. There's a lot of things that just look identical to previous administrations, and we all voted for Trump and the MAGA party. We voted that in because we wanted radical change, and so figures that want to hold them accountable to that promise, having been targeted and kicked out, it only fuels the fire even more. It only empowers them even more. It only empowers their bases even more. I mean, Massey's probably 2, 3 times more as popular now that he's lost than he was before.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the syndrome of losing, failing upwards. I don't think that's necessarily always a bad thing. And look, I think with that step back for Massey, it could provide a lot of good political leverage for him in the future. Absolutely. And so, talking about political leverage for the future, you have a highlight on your Instagram account that somebody asked you a question that said, if you were president for 24 hours, what would you do? And so I'd like to put up that on the screen right now. It's a 10-point list that you say abolish the Federal Reserve. You say bring back the gold standard. You say complete DHS overhaul. You say bye bye to the CIA, among other federal cuts. Now, if you were president for 24 hours, would you leverage a lot of things to essentially move into an America only effect of just providing for the native people of this homeland? Or are you necessarily a believer in the melting pot of this entire nation? I'd like to hear more of your views on that.
Yeah, I'm more of an America only type of person, with a grain of salt, right? We need to take care of the American people first. Everything else is on the back burner. Um, and that needs to be emphasized through our institutions, through our foreign policy, through our government agencies, through how we deal with the economy, money, whatever. Who are we giving bonds out to? Who are we giving loans to? Are we still printing money? Why are we printing money? Asking those questions, etc. before even getting involved in any sort of foreign policy. I'm not as much as an isolationist. I'm not, let's cut everybody off. I think there are relationships we have with other countries around the world that I think we should maintain. But certainly not want a relationship with the rest of the world where we're just bailing them out at every turn and sending $300 billion, $200 billion, $500 billion, $1 trillion all over the place while homelessness skyrockets, addiction is skyrocketing, our people are unhealthy, healthcare is expensive, and the U.S. dollar is being debased or has already been. It's worth nothing. The median household income is not going anywhere. Meanwhile, houses are skyrocketing. It's just, that's not a good situation. And I think really, 60, 70, 80 years ago, we really had it figured out, up until really we were taken off the gold standard. We were really, in a good position. We were putting a lot of people first. And it seemed like after World War II, the atmosphere changed a lot. And, the Americans were kind of slowly put on the back burner. I mean, I think the average income I can't remember what the average, it's not median, but in the early 90s, we were looking at $20,000 to $30,000 a year got you everything you needed in life. And now minimum wage gets you about $30,000 a year. And that's not even enough to keep you afloat. You've got people working overtime. And so me personally, if you had to do it one way, I mean, you'd basically make America isolationist for a couple of years, get us back up on our feet, and okay, great. And then we'll start to open things up a little bit. But the situation we're in right now is just not, it's not beneficial to anybody other than the rest of the world.
And you sound like somebody who's very articulate, somebody who's very put together, very intellectual, but pragmatic about the stuff that they would want to implement, especially on this 10-point list. And then we see people in the political world who have smaller influence than you, that have smaller reach than you do, and impact, I would say, like people like the Matt Nuclears of the world or David Mauricio's. I don't know if you've seen them, but they've recently been gifted shows on multiple news networks like the Daily Wire and Jubilee. Now, I want to hear from somebody like a Garrett Lawrence to the effect of, what do you think these grifters and these people that don't necessarily believe in their causes ought to be in the movement, and where do you see yourself slotting in with that?
That's a really good question. I'm glad you asked me that. I was hoping you would bring up Nuclear and the split now from Jubilee and stuff, and people of the likes. Um, Everybody serves a role. However, I do believe heavily. I've talked about this a couple of times. You got to really be about that life. And this grifting thing is really taking off. We're seeing larger institutions try to take a piece of the America First movement by propping up certain candidates, not candidates, but voices. And I think that's fine, because when it comes down to it, when you do go toe to toe, like if you were to go toe to toe with Matt Nuclear, or if Fuentes decided to go on the Nuclear show or whatever, that's where it actually comes down. And when it's down to the wire, that's where it separates the two populations about who is really devoted to the cause and doing this because they love it, and those who are doing it because it's either they've been told to, they're getting paid to, they're getting benefits from it. I mean, I'm in no interest of doing a show at all right now. I had a show for a little bit, and I just was like, I'm not contributing as much as I'd like right now. I'd like to, point my efforts towards things where I can spend more time on them. And so I, got involved in some more short form content. And but it's the thing is they can kind of want a position, and this is nothing against them. They can want and desire and chase after a position in the movement. But where we've seen America First flourish is when it comes down to the wire and you go toe to toe with somebody like Piers Morgan or Fuentes. And I'm not saying, Fuentes is this oligarch. I'm more saying, Piers Morgan went toe to toe with Fuentes. Who do we think succeeded out of that conversation? I mean, I've watched that interview twice now, and it was very clearly Fuentes came in and left very successfully. And Morgan has been this guy who, he runs this show. oh, it's uncensored, and we're these intelligent, articulate people, and we're breaking the mold and stuff. You can say that and make it look however you want, but when it comes down to what do you actually care about, that's where you're gonna get separated from the flock. Um, and so, nuclear shows like The Split, where they're just kind of coming out of nowhere. Uh, the industry plant is very visible. Everybody can see it. That's the days we live in. It's so traceable. It's not like this is like the 90s and there's just a new show on CBS now. It's the internet. We can see how popular we can see what shows you've been on. We can even see who you have gone. Nuclear went, I guess, toe to toe with, I think it was Glenn Greenwald recently, or somebody recently, who, it's not like I'm this huge fan of Glenn Greenwald, but somebody who is a pretty good critic of America's foreign policy, and he's making legitimate arguments. When you are trying to be part of, the political sphere, and you're fighting the losing fight, you're not going to survive on the other side of this. That's the thing. Fighting Greenwald was just picking a losing battle. The
Yep.
narrative and what people believe in is just not, it's not what he's touting anymore. It's just the environment's changed. It's not 2020 black and white politics. That's not what it is anymore.
Well, and it feels like on the right, it's black and black politics, right? Especially with Matt Nuclear, it really just seems like he was picked because he's a good hire for a diversity quota, is almost what it feels like, because this guy does debates with a $25 gaming headset in his little goon cave. Yet, when you look at Matt Nuclear as the person debating on Jubilee, he always brings up race and scapegoating his own race to say that no, we're not selling out to the white oppressors anymore. We're really selling that narrative of black people are all independent and strong, even though a lot of other things show that they're tribalistic, they move in culture spheres, all of these things. So with a guy like Matt Nuclear, it's like the paradigm of just a black conservative rising up out of nowhere and essentially race trading to get to a better position in politics. Would you have to agree with that?
Yeah, I could agree with that. Yeah, it just seemed. I mean, it's the Daily Wire. It's their numbers are plummeting. They need to find some sort of way to get an audience back together again. He's a young voice. Well, I'll give it to him. He's talented at speaking. He knows how to handle pressure so far. So far. I haven't seen otherwise, unless I'm
We'll
missing
see.
something. Yeah, we'll see. And out of desperation from the Daily Wire, it's understandable that they're making that move, but it's not a long-term position that's going to last. It's not going to last. I mean, we could even see him maybe one day down the line, if he doesn't completely sell out, he might make a move like Candace Owens, where it's like, okay, I don't like how things are being run. I am being disingenuous to my audience. And yeah, I'm just kind of this trophy black speaker for Daily Wire. It's just not a good look long term.
No, and after he's joined Daily Wire, he's still in his room. He still has his $20 gaming headset. Daily Wire just essentially slapped their logo in the bottom right corner, but didn't give him any other resources for his show. He's just filming on OBS. He's filming on all of these other things. So you have to ask the question, why are these big media conglomerates not giving these type of same opportunities to people like you and me? Now necessarily the Daily Wire probably wouldn't be a good fit for, me and you, but
Yeah.
there's other media companies like The Blaze, The Rift, all of these other news companies and news agencies also that aren't providing these opportunities like how the Daily Wire is, where you can still film like you're in 2012, yet get a key mark show on our network, which is just mind blowing that these companies are going this direction. It's probably after what happened to Charlie Kirk. They're trying to find new talent.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the big thing is, I think the reality of it all is that people like you and me are much more center of the road to the average population, right? We're willing to criticize both the left and the right. We're willing to go there. We're willing to make a disagreement over a MAGA foreign policy decision. We're willing to do that. And number one, it's because they these institutions would dread, you know, making a criticism of the people that they've associated with for so long. Specifically Daily Wire, right? Well, up until a certain point, Ben Shapiro used to be a critic of Donald Trump, and then now he's, shifted sides. But um, and the thing is, too, is we don't even need that. You and I don't really, we don't even need those people. The media is decentralized. If we want to go be on our own and start a show, we can do that. You used to have to just go on Fox and Friends, and I got to do this, and I got to get a show, and
Which is
Matt
the crazy
Nuclear's
part.
resume.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's the crazy part is he's willing to sell out so easily, even though we have the gift of you can go out and chart your own thing. He's still
right,
filming the same exact show, but now just being backed by a force that's going to tell him what to say. I mean, it's
right,
unbelievable.
right.
It's almost like modern day slavery. And you thought a guy like Matt Nuclear would be able to tell what slavery's like, right? So I just don't understand it.
Yeah, if it were 2016 or even 2020, if I was Matt Nuclear, and you were small enough, you were approached by Daily Wire, you would probably think to yourself, okay, I'll do this for a couple of years. It'll be, a little smudge on the resume, or maybe they'll course correct, and this is a good long-term decision I'm making, and I'm just going to get a show. I'm going to build an audience, and then eventually I'll go do my own thing. Well, it's 2026. You don't need to do that anymore. And you don't even want to run the risk, even if there was an organization who was like, hey, we want you to do whatever you want to do and run this show, this kind of middle right show, this America First show, do whatever you want. You're not really going to do whatever you're not really going to do what you want. They have a leash on you no matter what. And that leash is you're representing them. So unless they are completely changing course, people in this sphere of kind of America first and this middle of the road politics, this willingness to just really die for the cause, it's not attractive to any of these large organizations because they are not willing to course correct along with the rest of us and the rest of the general population, because that's what's happening. And I've said this, you will be left behind. That's just how it is. Your organization, your company, your personal brand, your personal platform, the individual, you're going to be left behind. We see it with Daily Wire. They were left in the dust because they didn't adapt and they didn't change leadership and they didn't, you know. Um, and so I wish Matt Nuclear the best. I'm hoping he does this for maybe a short period of time. If he probably won't grow that much of an audience. It might be enough to escape maybe in a year or two, but I mean, I don't know if we know how long his contract looks like, but it's just if I was a young guy 6 years ago, I would have done that, but I'm not a young guy 6 years ago. It's 2026. The environment changed, and I think it's changed forever. There's no way we can really get back from this unless the whole infrastructure collapses in on itself.
Yeah. And just we can take this list down now that's up, but I believe with that list that we were talking about, you wouldn't be able to say most of that stuff that's on there at the Daily Wire, and it's pretty moderate takes like overhauling the CIA and the Department of Education. I feel like at least half of those points you wouldn't even be allowed to talk about on the Daily Wire, even on Jubilee. And so Jubilee, I'll give more credit though. They've actually talked about the Israeli issue. They've talked about other foreign policy issues that we deal with that tend to be very heated topics in the United States. But at the Daily Wire, you would get none of that. And so I wish him the best as well. But he's got a lucrative contract most likely, and it's a make or break time for him. So we'll see if he has the stones to take it where it needs to go and stand up to the reiterated viewpoints, or is he just going to leave us all in the dust and sell himself out? Guess we'll see when
Right.
when time passes. Um, But there's one last topic I'd like to talk about with you on, and we got to save some topics for the next time you come on the program, right? I don't want to dive too much into Israel yet. I don't want to dive too much into the Iran conflict yet because we've talked a lot about it on the show. I really wanted to talk about the Epstein scandal and how you pointed that out and how you exposed that, because that's truly investigative journalism that you and your friends did there to raising an issue on that. But the last foreign policy thing I'd like to talk to you about, since you seem aligned with America first, you seem aligned with protecting our race, but also protecting our culture in this country, among other things. I would like to talk about the stepping down of Keir Starmer in the UK. Obviously, we're going to get a seventh prime minister coming up in the last 10 years out there. What do you think the next step is for the United Kingdom?
Um, well, it's honestly, it's a good time to be in the United Kingdom because things are changing. Um, I don't think the media here in the US is doing a good job of covering it. Not even the BBC UK is covering it adequately. But we're seeing, thousands of protests and riots, and the Irishmen are rising up, and they are done with this. They are done with two-tiered policing, and it's too intense of a situation for this to continue, for their immigration policy to continue. Um, and so the thing with Starmer is we've seen people like Boris Johnson, now Starmer in the line of people that have stepped down in the last 10 years, and not everything has changed. I think Boris Johnson stepped down due to COVID related reasons. Um, but I will say we need to take everything with a grain of salt because though he's stepping down, we've seen changes like this made, and we're going to have a change in leadership, and it's done really nothing. However, I don't think there's been a moment as volatile, as violent, as loud, as intense as right now, especially with Rupert Lowe at the front of Restore Britain, because you had Nigel, is it Farage, who came along with
Yep.
Reform Britain, I think 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and he kind of touted this kind of Britain first type of ideology and brought a lot of people along and on with that, and essentially did nothing. And Rupert Lowe has been very kind and gentle enough to remind him that he's done nothing and he's kind of a loser. And Starmer is a loser. The media they're losers. And now we have the inquiry report regarding all the sexual assault and the rape in the last. I mean, I can't remember how far back the inquiry goes, but involves 250,000 cases, and it's something that the government, along with the police, along with the media, have all turned a blind eye to, and we, as maybe Americans observing from the outside, may not be able to see all the details because of how the media is portraying everything. But I believe that Britain is going to head in the best direction, the next best direction, the next, probably 4 or 5 to 10 years. It's just they can't. There's no way they can escape the anger and the rage that these young white women and young white men all feel, and the disdain for how their country's just been overrun.
Yeah, and do you think that the UK will get a conservative prime minister?
That's tough. That's tough. I would like them, and I think there are higher chances than before. Uh, is that something that seems 100% on the table to happen? I don't know. I mean, it's just they've shown the UK government has kind of shown time and time again that they will ignore you completely and do whatever they want. And that just shows a complete institutional compromise and invasion that's happened in the UK. And but I think we have a better chance now than ever. And I really would like to see Restore Britain completely take off. You have people backing it from within the US. You have people donating money, and it's growing. The attention is just you can't escape it. So if they try to put in a more liberal prime minister, he's going to get the same heat that Starmer got. The pressure is going to be the same. It's not going to change until they get a conservative prime minister. So I'd be curious to see whether they just want to continue turning a blind eye or put somebody new in who's more conservative.
Garrett Lawrence, a fountain of wisdom. Thank you very much, Garrett, for joining the show today. I really appreciate your take on all those topics. We covered a lot, honestly, and so I'd like to say thank you for joining again. I know your camera went blurry, so hopefully next time when you join the show, we'll be able to get you in more of a set location. Elon, Starlink, we need to fix this, okay? Look, it's out of our control, right? You got $1 trillion now. Let's upgrade the satellites up there. But thank you very much for joining the show, Garrett.
Yes, thanks for having me on. It means a lot. I'll see ya.
See ya. And the last thing I'll say before we wrap up today's show is we talked to Garrett a lot about the Epstein scandal. We talked to him about foreign policy approaches, but make sure to check out The Common Cause at the app below. You can follow us on every platform. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you all for watching today's episode. It is the 8th episode of The Common Cause. Remember to be Jesus first, America only, and only put America first. Thank you all. God bless you. God bless our country. America is compromised. The mainstream media won't even touch certain topics. American churches are being bought out by Israel. Israel-backed PR campaign targets 38 Arizona churches. ICE is being attacked and assaulted in the streets. Man arrested for throwing Molotov cocktails at federal facility in brazen anti-ICE attack. College Republican vice presidents are being shot on college campuses. Alabama's Ella Cook killed in Brown University shooting. This is not an America I know and love, and isn't an America that I want to move into the future with. The American people have an air of grievance. This is your way to express it. We are the common cause, we are the common people, and we only put America first.